Ukrainian government has accused Russia of a full-out invasion. However, NATO countries seem not to be keen on the idea, as they fear it could elevate the conflict further.
The
world has the power to close our sky from Russian missiles, from Russian combat aircraft, helicopters. If anyone still doubts, Ukraine needs planes. In fact, it's simple. When you have the will to make the sky safe.
This is not a NATO conflict, and it will not become one. No ally has sent combat troops to Ukraine. We have no hostility toward the Russian people, and we have no desire to impugn a great nation and a world power.
The European Union is definitely not at war with Russia. European funds will not be used to finance the delivery of combat aircraft to Ukraine.
Meanwhile, Russia's president has highlighted to his Turkish counterpart that the operation in Ukraine will end as soon as Kiev stops fighting. He told Recep Erdogan that Moscow terms must be met and any efforts to stall negotiations will be counterproductive. President Erdogan stated that Turkey will do everything it can to help resolve the conflict. Well, we spoke earlier with Turkish political scientist Yunus Sona, and he says that Turkey has its own concerns over NATO's military expansion, and that's despite being a NATO member itself.
We have lived here in Turkey through 3 different coup d'états organized by the United States and its NATO allies in 1971, in 1980, and lastly in 2016. Turkey faces NATO-supported ethnic separatist organization PKK in the north of Syria. It is a contradictory situation for us, being a NATO member, but being a NATO member, we have been threatened by NATO for the last 50 years. Including with NATO allies supporting terror organizations inside Turkey and along Turkey's borders. This is not a conflict between Ukraine and Russia. This is a conflict between NATO expanding towards what I would call Eurasian countries. Currently, it's Russia, but tomorrow it will be Turkey. Let us listen to what US President Biden recently said in his State of the Union, where he, I quote, said that the free world has been shaken. Well, free world in that context means the world free to join NATO and to accept US dominance within the alliance. So he's defending actually Ukrainian government's freedom to submit itself to NATO control and dominance. So this is a serious conflict, and we are facing, concerning the sanctions, the US claim of the so-called unipolar world. They are trying hard to organize this unipolar world. They're trying hard to organize it in security, in energy. They are intervening into global energy markets. They are trying to force everyone to sell strategic reserves of oil, for instance. And they are trying to keep up the system going under their dominance and guidance. And we can simply measure their success by taking a look at the oil price or the gas price. They fail in that. So this is a reflection that sanctions are failing as well. And I think this is a profound conflict. It goes well beyond Ukraine. This is very important to acknowledge that this conflict is about US global dominance, and it's very contested right now, currently in Ukraine, but in other parts of the world as well.
We spoke earlier with a former Ukrainian prime minister who says President Zelensky exposed his country to a strategic danger by giving American military freedom over Ukrainian territory.
The Americans have been conducting a huge number of exercises on a permanent basis. Moreover, last summer they took part in practicing a nuclear bombing of the Russian territory from the airspace of Ukraine. The fact that the Kiev regime had agreed to such absolutely provocative actions means only one thing: that Russia should launch a retaliatory nuclear strike on the territory of Ukraine, meaning President Zelensky exposed his own country to this strategic danger. The exercises were conducted not only by the Americans but also by the British and other NATO countries. But none of its leaders have ever said they were ready to defend Ukraine. Their task was to drag Ukraine into a war with Russia and to simply pull chestnuts out of the fire. I was always saying that it's possible to negotiate only with those who have the will, desire and ability to negotiate, who have the opportunity to give orders to the troops. Zelensky gave the command, but no one began to carry it out. They began to come up with excuses. If NATO had not been spreading so aggressively to Russia's borders, everything could have been adjusted. And now the hatred towards Russia is being inflated. If you watch any Western TV channel, you'd be surprised by the madness of people creating fakes, which are then embedded in the consciousness of citizens. And then people are bringing to power some insane idiots. I have seen the level of European politicians degrading. They're getting crazier and more irresponsible. And why are they irresponsible? Because those who choose to elect them have caught the wave created by the military-industrial complex. As a result, nothing positive can be born from hatred, only war, which is again beneficial for the military-industrial complex.